with Miami Dolphins. The pressure, he's in trouble. Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jaylen Waddle. It's a Dolphin touchdown. Throwing deep upfield on the near side. Man open. Touchdown! Looking deep. He's got a man. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's got it over the touchdown. Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
All right, huddle up, huddle up. We're gonna crank these engines up on one. All right? Wait, 80. Wait, set. Drivers, start your engines.
This is the Finish Line.
I coached a great offensive lineman in the past. Larry Little, Dwight Stevenson, Jim Langer, all Hall of Famers, and Richmond Webb belongs to that same group.
Here are your hosts, legendary Miami Dolphins left tackle Richmond Webb, Reason, and Mr. BallGame.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. And we are back here for another one, and it's a special one. It is the first day of training camp. It is upon us. Here we go. Already 200 of you guys in the room. Please do us a favor. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. And gentlemen, I mean, we have so many things to talk about. I mean, you know, you got Aaron Rodgers out here taking a $35 million pay cut over the next 2 seasons, the largest by a single player in team sports. All right, because clearly they're working on something. You got Tua out here talking about his extension and congratulating Herbert on his extension. And then you got everything that went down today that we are going to go into detail into. Guys, man, you know, what a time to be alive, Richmond.
Oh, it's great to be alive. I mean, this is what we've been waiting for. Like I said, everybody, you know, I'm hyped. I'm glad it's finally here. You know, training camp is actually started. The rookies came in last week, and now the veterans have reported, and, you know, it's time to get it started. So, like I said, once football season is over, it seems like everybody is craving for it to start again, this and that. But, you know, we went through the draft, free agency, all that. So, now training camp has started, so before you know, we'll have actual preseason games, and the season will be started before we know it. So I'm happy to be here. Glad to talk it up. I know you got a lot for us tonight to unpack, so just looking forward to it, and trying to see what my man Mr. BallGame doing down there. I don't know if he's playing the new Madden or whatever. He's doing something over there, but I'm sure he's gonna chime in and let us know what he's doing.
Nah, man, I'm just really just excited, you know. I mean, excited as most people are about the fact that time is here. I have to look at this whole process from a different lens, though. I mean, unfortunately, I'm not just a fan. I'm a former coach, so for me, I look at it from the other side of the spectrum, and I don't get too hyped until the pads go on. So I have to try to remind myself, you know, saying don't go to the super fan mode. Once the pads go on, I'll start seeing things shake out a little bit different. But it's always good, you know, 'cause it's here now, right? And we can put some things to rest, and just know that I believe these guys got one hell of a plan that they're going to put in place to make sure that the team meets all of the expectations that we all have for them and they have for themselves. And we just happen to be a part of the ride. So let's get it.
So the day started off with, obviously, and we'll go over it here. The day started off with Mike McDaniel's presser, and he had some key updates in this presser, and we will go over it here. And among the 4 Dolphins who are beginning training camp on the active, physically unable to perform list, offensive lineman Teron Armstead and Isaiah Wynn are closer to returning than cornerback Nick Needham and tight end Tanner Connor. Coach Mike McDaniel said Wednesday, but McDaniel seemed hopeful that Needham and Connor would be ready at some point. Players on that active PUP list can be taken off the list at any time, but if they're on the PUP list to start the season, a player must miss at least 4 games. After those 4 games, teams must have a 3-week window to activate the player, release them, or place them on injured reserve, allowing them to sign a replacement. Armstead had a knee cleanup procedure this offseason, McDaniel said. He dealt with 4 injuries last season: a toe, the most troublesome of the injuries, knee, a pectoral, and a hip. He played 13 of the Dolphins' 17 regular season games. And just a side note here that's not in this for you guys, because I don't know if you heard it, but Teron Armstead was on a podcast, and you remember how that toe injury was so bad they wanted to shut him down after week 1, right? Well, he rehabbed it. He did not get surgery on it. And the reason why he rehabbed and did not get surgery is because they told him it'd be a 10-month process. So he'd probably miss this season too. So he just rehabbed it, and he said, quote unquote, he feels like he's 25 right now. Anyways, continuing on. Wynn was injured in an on-field work preparing for the season, McDaniel said. He didn't specify a body part. Connor's injury is undisclosed. The Dolphins' first practice at camp was scheduled to begin at 10:30 a.m. Wednesday, and the first practice open to fans is Sunday. The team is off Saturday, and FYI, pads will be coming on next week for you, BallGame. McDaniel addressed some other issues. McDaniel said he spoke with Tyreek Hill after his confrontation with a man at the local marina. The parties reached an out-of-court settlement, but the NFL continues to investigate the matter. In a situation like that, everybody's disappointed with what we're talking about, McDaniel said. When you're in charge of making decisions, reserve as much judgment as possible until the information is collected. The league is still looking at it. McDaniel said Tagovailoa had a tremendous offseason. Tagovailoa was named the NFL's 82nd best player in a vote of NFL players. McDaniel seemed pleased to see that. He said, when you're begging for positive reinforcement and you see if you suck, I can say if you're on that list, you don't suck. Asked about conversation with Connor Williams, who skipped the offseason program because of unhappiness with his contract but reported to training camp. McDaniel said the biggest thing with Connor is being able to communicate the whys. I have lost 0 relationship with him at all. Feel very good about us working through that and very pumped to have him. He's pumped to be back. You have to have a relationship with each and every one of your players. The business is real, and too often it can affect relationships. McDaniel joked that general manager Chris Greer is the bad guy and I'm the good guy when he was talking in the context of contract negotiations. In a brief reflection on last year's 9-8 season and playoff berth, McDaniel said, you find out that losing 5 games in a row is pretty miserable. There's nowhere to hide in that process. This year's team, the players who were part of that are closer because of that. My favorite part of last year was going through that with them. There are a lot of scars people have in their past. McDaniel remains convinced that players respond to genuine, consistent, authentic intent. And McDaniel said he never wants to be complacent or too comfortable because the second I do that, how can I expect every coach and player to do the same? One change for McDaniel from last year, he said in his first year in Miami, he was putting together a scheme without certainty what his players do best. Now you can tailor a system to your players because you know what they're comfortable in. Is McDaniel eager to see Hill and Jaylen Waddle compete against cornerbacks Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey in training camp? He says, have you seen their collective paychecks? My interest is high, he cracked. In all seriousness, what I'm pumped about is those guys specifically want to win in the worst way and want to be the version of themselves. And gentlemen, something that wasn't highlighted in this that he said, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the press conference, but we're talking about him tailoring the offense to players, gentlemen. And one of the things he said was last year, Tua was learning the language of the offense. Now, Tua, is the language of the offense. You know what I mean? In terms of where Tua is down the line, down the road. A lot to unpack, a lot to take away in there. But let's start with you, Richmond. Isaiah Wynn, we all had hopes, you know what I mean, that really that, he would get right in there, pads would go on, right? And it would be a battle left tackle. And by the way, to give the exact quote, last year he was speaking a foreign language. This year he owns the language, is what McDaniel said about Tua. But anyways, reverting back to Wynn, you know, I know McDaniel said he's close to coming back, but you went through a situation with veterans holding out, and you made the most of your opportunities, the most, of the chances you were given. How vital is it for Wynn, a guy who's looking for, to revitalize his career? I've said this, Richmond, and I want to get your thoughts on it. I've said he needs to be ready to go when the pads go on. He can't afford to miss time when those pads go on in that battle, because you've been around the whole Liam Eichenberg thing over the last couple of years. It's evident the franchise and the coaching staff wanted to work out. But how key is it that Terron Armstead and Isaiah Wynn get healthy as quickly as possible, knowing Wynn's in that battle left guard, and Terron Armstead really didn't even practice that much last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key word that stuck out when you were, coming into this topic and asking me a question is revitalize. And typically when you got to do that, it's almost like you got to reprove yourself over again. At least that's the way I process it. So for Wynn, it's definitely important. And now the way things are structured, this and that, they don't even go 2 a day. So even though it was, the days were a lot longer, grueling, because we went twice a day, we probably got in twice as many practices as they did. So you get twice as many reps to kind of fine tune, to get your technique down and get your pad level down, this and that. You get a lot more reps where you're not getting that anymore. So it's for Wynn, it's definitely very important. And then I understand about, Terron Armstead. I don't know how you rehab a toe, but the only thing I'm hoping is that it doesn't linger on into this season, because, I mean, it was a huge difference when he's not in the lineup. And, I was wondering about his pec, but they never did. Just said, I guess he rehabbed. I don't know if he had a partial tear or whatever, but that's the thing. I think more win is the key, is, like you said, revitalize, get in there. If you're competing for a spot, you can't win a spot if you're not getting the reps. And that's why that's so important for him. But to run, I'm just hoping he can maintain that, because, he was one of the best tackles in the league last year when he was in there. So, I'm hoping he's ready to go. Sound like he is. So I was happy to hear that.
BallGame, you two were talking about like how you view training camp from the coach's perspective. Speak about what McDaniel was talking about there, about the 5-game losing streak. And, people are going to look at him and be like, you're crazy saying that was your favorite part. But he's talking about the bonding and the learning experience that team went through. And in essence, you really, you how do I say this? You relish the victories more when you go through losses like that and a streak of losses like that. But I mean, I'm sure you're in your coaching time, you went through some lulls and some down points that had an actual positive effect and made kids in that room nut up and go on that field and perform. So speak from that sense, because people are going to look at him and be like, you're crazy, bro.
Well, I think what's most important about the entire journey that they went through together is the fact that it's easy. Everything is always easier when you're winning, right? But then you really get to see what your players and what the organization is made of when you're not winning. And those are the times that you want to see if guys are really going to stand in the paint with you and fight, or they're going to naturally go into flight mode and want out and do all those different things. The fact that it really comes down to that, because in the locker room, the smallest thing, or a guy missing a block or a drop pass in a losing streak can turn into one of the biggest arguments, where it's the offense going against the defense, or even the D-line telling the secondary, do your job type of thing, and it can manifest into something that can turn into be something way worse than what it really is. But in those instances when you're losing like that, and you can go through that process together and truly look at yourself internally and not point that towards someone else, that's growth. And they grew through that. They grew through that process together. The core of this team went through that together. So that's just going to cement them, and what I'm saying, and really what it's going to do more than anything is it's going to give McDaniels all the confidence to know that when things do get tough in the game, he ain't got to worry about these guys. He's just got to make sure he's on point. They're going to go out and execute. They're going to go out and be the dogs that they are. He just got to make sure that he on par with doing what he needs to do, and that puts everybody in a really good space to go out and just play free and loose. You know what I'm saying? And just enjoy the game, because that's really what it is. It's a game, but you want the highest level of execution. And when you got a guy, when I can look across the field and look in, if I'm Waddle and I look inside over there and I see Uno in there and he's calling, you know what I'm saying? He's doing his signals, that I can see Tyreek on the other side, and he looking at me and he giving me that yay. Yeah. I know he locked in. You feel me? And those guys have that. And then when you got guys ultimately consistently communicating, they learned all of those things when things were at their worst. Not when they were at, not when it was at its best, but at its worst. And that's the beauty of it. So there is a lot that comes from losing streaks. So,
all right, we're gonna full screen it. We got about 4 minutes worth of highlights from today, chronological order from the guys hitting the field to the defensive workouts and the offensive workouts. We'll full screen it here for all of y'all. We'll play it here. Boom. All right, here we go. Stretch the hammies. Get them loose, boys. Get them loose.
The knees.
Get them loose. We're back.
Who's going to carry the vote?
Here. Jaylen, serious as ever. X and the coach, baby. Look at that. Let's go. Then Chubb and Phillips got their little, let's get ready for it. Working on the handwork. Bro, Phillips about to blow up this year, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Say a prayer for everyone who goes to Home Depot when ball game's there. Let's go break.
Gotta give him some Home Depot gift cards or something. Yeah. Keep it mellowed out or something.
Who is that? Is that Trill? What? Trill back on the field? Let's go. Ogba. Woo. Let's go. There's Ethan Bonner. He's back. And then there he is, Mr. Brandon Jones, back on the field, full force. Cater Kohu, looking as smooth as butter. Keon Crossan. Malik Reed. That's Malik Reed right there, getting the work in. People sleeping on him. People forgetting he's part of this team, huh? There you go. Uno leading the way. And he's got the helmet cam on. Look. Look at that. Look at that. That's a thing to behold, isn't that? That sight right there.
That's
Take
nice.
my breath away. You wish they had these kind of facilities back in that day, huh, Richmond?
Yeah, we had when we moved to Davie, it was pretty nice, but yeah, this is another level. I haven't had an opportunity to go by there. Oh, there go my man Charlie right there. One of the equipment guys, yeah. Oh man, right there.
Other angle for y'all. Look at this. Look at this. The quarterback's getting in the footwork.
Got the music going. Okay.
It's a vibe, baby. The vibe.
I can't forget my roots. So.
He calls me last night. Whatever time you're in sports. He's like, "What is your TV?" This asshole Marcel can't even bother coming on report day. He's all messy mania now.
Whoa.
He was laughing. He's like,
Marcel getting chirped.
I was there. I was there yesterday.
Oh, that's the best part of the video. Marcel Louis-Jacques getting chirped. Here's the footwork, though. Closer angle of what we're just watching.
Almost wasn't so big time. They asked me like last minute to go help, and I couldn't get a credential.
Tua, Flats, Jeff Wilson, all day, baby. Was that Raheem? And then look at this, boys. Woo! Come on, Jaylen.
Give me
Oh,
that.
Oh, stop. Attaboy. Jaylen in 1,500 plus incoming right now. I'm telling you, what an effort. What an effort, gentlemen, that was. Oh, man. If that doesn't get your Ghiblies going, I don't know what will. So
It's that time. Yeah.
it's that time, baby. It's that time. So let's get into what happened at training camp today. All right, gentlemen. And let's start off with, we'll go through the Sun Sentinel. We'll go through the Miami Herald. We'll go through SI.com. And we'll go through Travis Wingfield's update. And then we'll go through stock down report from Omar. So we got a lot of training camp coverage to get into. So let's start off, because as usual, people report things differently. And we're going to example A, here we go. So at many NFL training camp practices, one thing can usually be identified as standing out among the day drills. As the Miami Dolphins opened up camp with a brief hour-plus session on a humid Wednesday with cloud coverage over the Miami Gardens facilities, there was a little bit of everything. The matchups of top wide receivers, Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle, working against cornerbacks Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard, were few and far between as various units worked against different defensive units. But Howard had a pass breakup working against Hill. There you go, ball game. Boys are getting it. Quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, Skylar Thompson, and Mike White all got about equal snaps as they connected with pass catchers up and down the depth chart. The highlight pass play came when Tagovailoa threw deep to Waddle, had the ball ricochet up off a contest from safety Javon Holland, and Waddle came down with the reception. The highlight we just saw. The Dolphins worked on the run game. Some went for big gains. Others were stuffed by a number of different front seven defenders. A relatively clean practice for the offense, avoiding turnovers, wrapped up with a fumble that was forced by cornerback Justin Bethel and recovered by Aubrey Miller. There you go. Young UDFA out of Jackson State making some noise. As the Dolphins delve deeper into camp into the coming days, practices are expected to have more of a focus geared towards specific aspects of play like run-heavy days, deep passing game, blitzes, etc. The biggest play of practice went about 40 yards deep down the left sideline as Tagovailoa threw to Waddle. He and Holland leaped up to get the ball at its highest point. It bounced straight up, and it's the highlight we just saw. Howard's deflection and coverage against Hill came deep on a pass to the sideline from Tagovailoa that hung in the air too long. As the final practice period hit zeros on the clock, Bethel ripped the ball out of the grasp of receiver River Craycraft, and Miller recovered it in the middle of the field. Craycraft was on the receiving end of the pass from White. Tagovailoa had an efficient practice completing passes. He had only 3 incompletions during team drills. The Howard breakup, a deflection by Zach Sieler, and a line of scrimmage and a throwaway on a break blitz. Sieler had a strong day along with the deflection. Sieler had a sack on Tagovailoa on a player where he stepped up after fullback Alec Ingold picked up Bradley Chubb off the edge. Ingold had multiple receptions from different quarterbacks as well as fine lead blocks. Dan Feeney was seen springing one Salvin Ahmed run, and tight end Tyler Croft delivered a strong block for an outside run. Raheem Moser went for a sizable gain on one early run up the middle. Rookie Devon A. Chain had an active practice, both rushing and receiving. Cam Smith nearly had an interception on a pass from Skylar Thompson. Receiver Braylon Sanders had to dive to break it up. Along with Skylar Chubb, Raekwon Davis, Christian Wilkins, and Brandon Pilley were among frontline defenders stuffing runs along the line of scrimmage. So for David Furones, the stock up was running back Salvin Ahmed, who likely already had a leg up on Myles Gaskin. And the stock down was wide receiver Tyreek Hill, is a star and will undoubtedly produce for the Dolphins, but he was already off to a bad start with the off-field distraction, which we'll get into later. And on Wednesday, he had a drop on a deep sideline pass that was well thrown from Skylar Thompson. Afterward, he picked the ball up, punted it high in the air out of frustration, and the playmaker's lone standout reception came on a pass that was 20-25 yards over the middle for Thompson. Listen, ball game. I know the pads aren't on, but day one, you see Zach Sieler showing up. He reported to camp. He's playing ball. And whether it's the underwear, we know this man balls out when the pads come on, so it don't matter. But it looked like he's picking up right where he left off. And on top of that, I don't know about you, brother, but when I saw Cam Smith making plays out there. A smile came to my face because that young buck's gonna get it, sir.
Yeah. I think the thing that I like the most is the fact that they're getting after it early, right? They're not waiting around until the pass come out, and the game is still physical, and it should be physical at this level, right? They're not out there trying to hurt each other, but getting touched up, getting their bodies acclimated to having, guys leaning on them and guys having to try to fight through different blocks and things of that nature. At a high, at a relatively high rate of speed. They probably turn them down. Probably, if it's a scale of 10, they probably at about a 6.5, 7 right now. But it's still all good. It's all good work for them to get back and get at it. And all that does now is just let me know that they're all focused. They're all focused on the next evolution of the transformation that they got to make too. Go get the goal. So
and BallGame, like our
star,
like sealing Jaylen Ramsey and Xavier Howard out there on day one. You know what I mean? It like even the last couple of years, right? Jaylen's like he's one of those guys where he hasn't had to practice every because he knew our system so well, and Byron Jones wouldn't practice. He'd be on the sideline a lot. Having those two superstars like out there right away, it's a nice change of pace, bro. It tells how competitive these guys are and how serious they're taking this ball game.
Yeah, but it also sets the tone and sets a message to the other guys that and nobody gets to take any time off, right? You're either here for the right reasons or you can get gone, right? Show up and show out, or you're gonna get your walking papers. It is what it is. So
for sure. All right, let's get into this next article because I want to get because there's a recurring theme we're going to start to see here, and I want to get your thoughts, Richmond. So from the Miami Herald's training camp coverage, news and notes from the first Dolphins practice of training camp on Wednesday in Miami Gardens. Tua Tagovailoa's accuracy was sharp. He completed the 40-yarder to Jaylen Waddle, twisted his body on the highlight we saw. Tagovailoa threw only 3 incomplete passes all day in more than a dozen passing attempts. He completed all 4 of his throws in the initial 7-on-7 work in practice, including a 15-yard dart to Waddle. Tagovailoa threw a nice sideline pass to Tyreek to begin 11-11 work, but Xavier Howard seemed to nudge Hill, preventing Hill from making the catch. A penalty wasn't called. That was Tagovailoa's only complete pass in the first 10 or so throws in 7-on-7 or 11-on-11 work. His second incomplete pass was a throwaway on a blitz by multiple defenders. His third and final incomplete pass was a deflection by Zach Sieler, who's back after skipping OTAs. Here we go. Here's a recurring theme, Richmond. Drops were a problem early. Hill dropped a nifty sideline pass from Skylar Thompson and punted the ball in disgust. Waddle dropped a Thompson pass that could have been thrown a bit better. And rookie undrafted tight end Julian Hill dropped a well-thrown pass from Thompson on top of the drop from Hill from Tua on the sideline pass. Thompson seems to have been given a legitimate chance to compete with Mike White for the number 2 job, even though White was signed with the belief he would very likely be Tagovailoa's backup. Thompson had some bad luck Wednesday, victimized by those 3 drops, but had a good day overall. He completed a dart to Salvon Ahmed for a 20-yard gain. That Ahmed turned into an even bigger play, and Thompson made a great throw to Hill for a 20-yard completion in the middle of the field, and another 15-yarder to Hill. Thompson also completed short throws to Devon Achane and Cedric Wilson Jr. White's day was pretty good too. He completed dump-offs to Alec Ingold and Eric Zakama and had a strong throw to Braxton Berrios for a 15-yard gain in the middle of the field and a 13-yard throw to Waddle on the sideline. White's accuracy was way off on a throw to Waddle, but that was his only bad throw of the day. And everybody was present and participating except the 4 players on the PUP list. Jalen Phillips limped off after the second 7-on-7 play early in practice and had his leg examined, his left leg by a trainer, and he returned after about 10 minutes. Players won't be in full pads until next week, and it's difficult to judge running backs until then, but Achane displayed his blazing speed by turning the corner and getting to the perimeter on one running play. Ahmed, a perennial training camp star, also showed his usual speed on the long reception and a couple of runs. He was a standout amongst the running backs on Wednesday. Berrios, Wilson, and River Craycraft worked on returns, and Raekwon Davis blew up a Raheem Moser run for a loss. Brandon Pilley and linebacker David Long also had tackles for a loss. Reporters aren't permitted to say who's lined up at most position or who's with the first team and the second team, so we're not addressing that per team policy. What we can say is this: the organization holds Kendall Lamb in high regard after he played left tackle very effectively in the January 1st Patriots game before an injury. And as general manager Chris Greer has said, the Dolphins expect Austin Jackson to be their starting right tackle. Cam Smith deflected a pass thrown to Braylon Sanders from Thompson on the final play of practice, and Craig Kraft caught a pass from White but fumbled after Justin Bethel knocked it out, and Aubrey Miller, the UDFA, picked it up. All right, two things for you, Richmond, I want to get your thoughts on. All right, number one, the drops. We can already see different things pointed out after we've gone over by two articles by two different publications, but the drops are a consistent thing, Richmond, early on. And we remember that brutal drop in the Buffalo Bills game that Waddle had from that nice pass from Thompson, right? And on top of that, Kendall Lamb, I want to get your thoughts on this, Richmond. Kendall Lamb, because you saw him a bit last year. If you actually would go back and we were to play that Jaylen Waddle catch, right, that play, guess who the left tackle was working with the ones? Kendall Lamb. So I want to get your thoughts on Kendall Lamb working with the ones as the backup with Wynn and Armstead out right now, as well as, the report there that they think very highly of him, right? See, that Lamb stuff wasn't mentioned by the Sun Sentinel, right? So your thoughts on that, and your thoughts on clearly the dropsies that were showing up in the first day. Nerves, what is it? Because, brother, the pads aren't on. You guys are in shirts. This is touch football. Should be catching everything. You guys should be looking like you have Stickum on your gloves. No?
Yeah, they should. But, this is the first day. And typically, for some reason, my experience has been defense is always a little bit ahead of the offense. I think the thing that I took away from that was the drops are concerned. And one of the things I was impressed with was Tyreek dropped a pass that he should have caught, and he was pissed off about it. And when you take things that serious in practice, it's only going to trickle down to the rest of the group to like, hey, we don't drop balls, this and that. So that's something minor I think that's going to be corrected. The other thing that stood out, what I was happy to see, was Tua recognized that it was kind of like an all-out blitz and then got rid of the football. So that's good to me. So his computer's working process is that. As for a guy like Lamb, this is what you look for. I mean, you don't wish nobody's hurt, but you take advantage of Teron Armstead being out right now, because this gives you an opportunity to work against two of the best pass rushers in the league. I know we're not in pass now, but just getting that type of speed up the field and the way they were working on those hand drills and stuff like that, that's going to only make you a better pass blocker, this and that. So you get to run with the ones and stuff like that. So it's all in how you process it. I think he knows he's not going to beat out Teron Armstead. That's his position. But while he's out, make the most of those reps, and I was happy to see that. So that's a good thing.
All right, and here we go. Here's the SI.com. Elaine Pupar and Omar Kelly would have put this together. Here's their highlights, lowlights, and observation from the first practice. As expected, every player on the roster took part in practice except for the 4 currently on PUP. Edge defender Jaylen Phillips, he went out and came up limping, but he did come out and finish practice. Jaylen Waddle had the highlight of the day. Also, that's a consistent thing we've seen. They've all pretty much come to the agreement that highlight we showed was the highlight of the day. Another highlight came when Xavier Howard broke up a mid-range sideline pass for Tua intended to Tyreek. So here you got Pupar saying Tyreek broke it up, gentlemen, but on the last time it was, it wasn't that he broke it up. It was that it was a draw. He also gives cornerback Cam Smith his props that continued the good work he showed in the offseason with good coverage on a couple of passes in team sessions. And he mentions the Braylon Sanders breakup we've covered already. Alec Ingold was amongst the best performers on the day with a couple of catches and great stuff block against Bradley Chubb and pass protection. Chubb did have a couple of nice plays in run defense. Relatively short practice, which is not uncommon for the first of camp. To his best pass of practice came early in 7-on-7 when he threw a dart to Waddle at the numbers on the left side, which was mentioned in a previous update. Hill, Waddle, and Julian Hill each dropped a pass. Rookie running back Devin A-Chain got a lot of work according to Papar. Had a couple of outlet passes. Hold on, excuse me. Got a frog in my throat. Zach Sieler would have had a coverage sack on the play where Ingold blocked Chubb. Sieler later tipped a Tua pass at the line of scrimmage. Braxton Berrios came up with a nice low catch when he got down on the ground to grab a pass from Mike White, some 15 yards downfield. Skylar Thompson had a completion of about 20 to 25 yards to Tyreek Hill in the middle of the field after Hill came back from that. And on the last play of practice, River Craycraft fumbled, and we've covered that as well. So, ball game, I want to get your thoughts on this because, again, you said you approach this from a coach's aspect. How key is it that we have Connor Williams, Zach Sieler, Christian Wilkins, all guys, you could even throw Robert Hunt in this category too, all guys who are, they got a reason to have a gripe and be unhappy about their current contractual status. How key is it to have these guys show up and, go out there, and you got a guy like Zach Sieler that's, performing, you know what I mean? How key is it for a coach to have, all these players that bought in that they're putting their own negotiations to the side?
They all bought in, bro, during that 5-game losing streak last season. And the fact that they're being professionals about this situation and saying that they'll allow their agents to do their job, but their job is to show up, right? Because they're currently getting paid. So it's not like they're not getting paid. It would be different if they didn't have a salary. If they wasn't getting paid, that's a completely different situation.
Mhm.
Come through, honor your contract, and then let your agent do what he has to do to ensure that you get the best compensation possible for you moving forward. I think that's just the professionalism that these guys are exhibiting, man. I mean, they're all young, but they're all about their business and about doing things the right way. Only thing holding out does is just prevent the team from being able to move forward. And the fact that they're all on the same page and all out here getting dirty, getting into the mix of things and being about the business first, which is trying to get to a Super Bowl. That's just another positive surrounding this team, man. I mean, they could have all done exactly what Josh Jacobs doing right now, not even show up, but they're here doing what professionals do, showing up for work. They're getting paid, so I think it's a good thing, man. It's a good thing all overall. So
I like it. And finally, Kier, Travis Wingfield, this was his little thread on Twitter. And he said a highlight of the day was the 40-yard plus completion from Tua to Waddle. Tua let it fly early, but Javon stayed close enough. He said he didn't really see the ball hit the ground that much with QB1 in. Had a nice time ripping up during 7-on-7 that fed Waddle perfectly into the window. Thought he was decisive and found the open man. He pumped the ball to Zakama with chances to create after the catch a few times. Wingfield thought that Skylar Thompson's best practice, this was his best practice since his arrival. He looks to be significantly ahead of where he was as a rookie and had a handful of timing throws between coverage. Had a nice lob that took Tyreek into space at one point. Cam Smith, he gives him props that he had an excellent day. Drove on 2 balls in 7-on-7, getting 1 pass breakup. In team, he drove on a throw to the outside from Skylar. Had a chance to pick it, but didn't survive the ground. Xavier got the D sideline fired up with good coverage and a pass breakup on a throw to Tyreek. Raekwon Davis and Brandon Pilley had impressive run stops, and David Long made what would have been a big tackle for a loss, but he thought the running game found good space. Salvin Ahmed had an explosive run and play in the passing game, and Mostert had a big run too. All right. Another consistent thing we're seeing here, I want to get your thoughts, ball game, and then I got a question I want to ask you, Richmond, before we get into the stock up, stock down report. We've seen a couple of guys mention Brandon Pilley already, ball game, so clearly his plays were standing out. And, interior defensive line depth is something we've kind of been worried about. Where are you standing with that? Again, you're right. The pads aren't on yet, and we'll see what time it really is when the pads come on. And also, we don't have our top guys out there. But what are your thoughts on Pilley? He had a good camp. He had a good OTA. Now, good first day of camp. we need interior defensive line depth. They gave him, he was one of the top 3 UDFAs with highest guaranteed money from this team. What are your thoughts on seeing him perform day one?
Well, the best thing about it all is that there's still a lot of things that can be evaluated without the pads being on, especially from a defensive side of the ball. One, the most important thing is motor, right?
Mhm.
Kid has a, an extremely high motor, and he's willing to get after it. That's a key. Especially the position he plays. Secondly is his ability, his desire to engage even without the pads on, right? Because you can have a guy willing to run around all game and in practice
Yeah.
just run around and be a high energy guy, but if he's not willing to get in there and mix it up and be actively engaged in the process of getting his hand work and getting all of his technique down and getting better at that, then what's the point? So I think across the board, he's doing exactly what you want to see. Now, like there's still some reservation to be held until the pads come on and they can actually get in there, and there's a lot of holding that's going on down in those trenches. But for right now, that high, his high energy, high level of energy, and his high motor and his willingness to get in there and mix it up, those are all things that are going to keep him around. For the duration of time that he's here, and if he sticks, then he sticks. But you've seen that he's at least hit those 3 wickets so far. There's about 6 or 7, but he's got 3 of them. It's the first day, but we'll see what he's looking like towards the end of the week. You know what I mean? Or next week when the pads come on, if he's still high energy like that, then you got a gym. You can go ahead and check the box on that and say, okay, all right, kid, we'll give you a shot. Because you definitely need the depth. So, yeah.
Richmond, not only did they say this was, this was one of the battles that I've been talking about heading in. Skylar Thompson versus Mike White, and they're out here. We know Mike White had not a great OTAs, a lot of issues about his arm. Skylar Thompson out here, Travis Wingfield saying what no one else said, saying that this was the best practice he's seen since Skylar Thompson arrived here. Speak on that, as well as, hey, looks like our boy Devin A-Chain popping off day one. Hey, popping eyes. And Topher, I'm figuring out. I'll let y'all know if I'm going to do a fantasy draft this year. I'll keep y'all updated in the coming weeks. But yeah, Richmond, your thoughts on Devin A-Chain? Travis was the only one that didn't mention him by name. He obviously had a good day. So did Salvin Ahmed. The running game had a good first day, and then your thoughts on Skylar Thompson as well.
Yeah, I think Skylar Thompson, he was drafted last year. I think the thing is, you come in the second year. This your second year. He was rookie last year. He was thrown in the fire probably early in what he was expected to play. But if you're a competitor, you're gonna work on some of the things you need to work on to continue to improve, to get better. And I think that's what he did this offseason. So it's a good sign that, he's looking way more polished, based on what Travis and them are saying. He's having a good camp. He's starting out right, but, it's a day-to-day thing. And the good thing is you take this day and then you continue to build on it. You build on, like BallGame said, we'll be in the pads next week. You want to see how you look once the pads get on. And once the pads get on, you build on that. And then it's the first preseason game. And then that's when you want to look and say, even if guys drop balls and stuff, you want to look at the ball placement, how he ran the offense, did he command the huddle? There's different little things you look at. And then, of course, I'm biased with Devon A-Chain. He's an Aggie, this and that. But what I did like was that he had opportunities to run the football and also catch the football. So they'll probably have some packages put together to him to utilize that type of speed, and that's a great thing. So and I think Mike McDaniel said something early, it was way early on, but he said, he was just calling plays, but now you kind of tweak and fine tune the offense to what guys do best, and you put them in the best position to get the maximized production. So so far, all good things, happy about that. And the good thing is, even though all the reports were different, the majority of them, most of it is positive. So I'm loving what I'm hearing so far.
Exactly. And Omar, his stock down report for today. And he said the top play of the day was the Tagovailoa 40-yard completion to Waddle. The runner-up was the Xavier Howard breakup on Tyreek. His top performers was number one was Kendall Lamb. He said, if you told me Kendall Lamb was Terron Armstead and I didn't know better, I would have believed you based on day one. Lamb, who the Dolphins signed to a one-year deal worth $1.16 million this offseason, which included a $100,000 signing bonus and a guarantee of $100,000, repeatedly stonewalled Miami's top pass rushers one-on-one during team sessions. There's a possibility that Jaylen Phillips and Bradley Chubb took the foot off the gas a little at the end of the rushes because this wasn't a padded practice, but Lamb impressed Omar on the first day. Salvin Ahmed was number 2 for his stock up in terms of the forgotten man of the Dolphins backfield, delivered a couple of chunk runs in his limited opportunities, and it was clearly a reminder that he shouldn't be forgotten or overlooked. Ahmed often flashes during these non-padded practices, so this isn't a surprise. If he continues to run with force when the pads come on, then he could potentially see him push for playing time, solidify his spot on the 53-man roster. Alec Ingold was his third. He said he was effective catching passes, had a number of forceful blocks, which included one where he stood up Chubb, preventing the pass rusher from producing a would-be sack on Tagovailoa. And he had a strong end to the minicamp as well. Stock down. He's still harping on Channing Tindall, gentlemen. He's still harping. He says, I keep waiting for Channing Tindall, a 2022 third-round selection, to make plays that show there's some upside, but it's been a long wait because there are only 5 inside linebackers on the roster. He got plenty of opportunities to impress on day one, and the only thing that stood out to me was how slow his reaction time was and how many false steps he took. One of my contemporaries made an excellent point about Tindall that I'd love to take credit for, but I can't. He said if Tindall were drafted 3 rounds lower, he wouldn't still be on the roster. The former Georgia star needs to pick it up. Whoo. Those are some harsh words for the first pick of the Mike McDaniel era in Miami. Holy boys, John. He was not mincing words on that, was he? So, I mean, jeez. Why did you just call him a bust while you're at it? Holy. Kid's only entering year 2. Like, we're throwing in the towel a little early here, aren't we? Anyways, one of the big topics, guys, post camp, and we're going to get into it here. We're going to play the footage and everything, was Miami Dolphins Tyreek Hill will not face criminal charges in alleged slapping of charter worker at Marina. Miami Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill will not face any criminal charges in the alleged slapping of the fishing charter company employee on Father's Day at Miami-Dade County Marina. Ed Griffin, the spokesperson for the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office, said in an email Wednesday afternoon that the man who would have been termed a victim if there had been a filed case met with Assistant State Attorney Robert Fiallo and signed a form saying he did not want to press charges. Quote, on the form, he also indicated that no threats, promises, or coercion played a part in his decision. The statement from the state attorney's office comes 2 days after Hill's attorney, Julius Collins, told South Florida Sun Sentinel that Hill and the Marina employee had resolved their differences. Prosecutors began reviewing the case a week after the June 18th argument at the Billboard Marina at Hullover Park. The matter is now closed with no criminal misdemeanor battery charges being filed in the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office. According to Fiallo's closeout memorandum, the Marina employee's attorney, Evan Feldman, said in an email on July 10th that his client wanted to withdraw the complaint and asked that no further action be taken on his behalf. The employee verified to the state attorney's office Wednesday that he did not want to prosecute. The memo said he did not wish to go forward on any criminal charges against the alleged subject freely and voluntarily. Reached by phone Wednesday afternoon, the Marina employee directed inquiries to his attorney, and Feldman could not be reached at his office phone and did not respond to an email. Hill still could face a suspension from the NFL for the incident. He spoke to reporters after practice Wednesday on the Dolphins' first day of training camp briefly about the incident. Hill and head coach Mike McDaniel said the league is still investigating. Before Wednesday's practice, McDaniel addressed the incident. He said he communicated with the league in situations like that. Everyone's disappointed, McDaniel said. It's important when you're in charge of making decisions to reserve judgment as much as possible till all information is gathered. After the practice, after practice if Hill was concerned about being suspended, Hill said he wasn't. when I'm able to come out here and play ball, I get a chance to get away from all of that at the end of the day. That's the thing about football. God has blessed me to be able to perform and do what I do, and I'm blessed to be grateful for that. I just can't make boneheaded mistakes like that. Brian McCarthy, an NFL spokesperson, declined to comment about the incident by email on Wednesday afternoon. So, and then it just gets into retelling what we already know, gentlemen. Your thoughts on there not being charges now and no distraction before we get into showing the video that's now public that I've uploaded to the channel, but we will show here for everyone to see firsthand.
Man, I think, still human beings, man, at the end of the day, right? And he just made a bad decision. That's what it comes down to. I mean, it's not like he pistol whipped the guy, you know what I mean? And we still don't know to what degree what was said by the guy that actually set Tyreek off. So,
yo, BallGame, wait till we watch the clip. I want to get your thoughts on this because I'm gonna tell you this right now. We'll get into it when you show the clip. Right. You're segueing. Richmond, any quick thoughts before we get into the clip on no criminal charges in the league?
I think he definitely learned that, even though you get upset, you can't put your hands on anybody. And I think it cost him. Good thing is he was able to sell it, but I don't think it's enough to warrant a suspension by the league. I'd be highly surprised if they did that.
I agree. All right. So let's play the clip here so you guys can see exactly what went down. All right, here it is for you guys. All right, so you can see the man. That's who he slaps right there. He tries to slap him. Nothing, barely a mosquito. But look at how he's being restrained, gentlemen. Watch him here, especially. Look at how Hill is being held back in the bottom corner there. What was said? What was said that a grown man is being restrained to that extent?
It had to be
something. Do you understand where I'm going here? Watch again. We'll watch it one more time. Look at right here. He's being restrained already. And as he's passing by, he just taps him in the back of the head. Right? And then look, he's being restrained, walked off. Then he comes back and wants some. And all these people are coming over to restrain him. Look at him. He's fighting off. He's pushing. He's ready to go. Man, listen, I reported, shout out. Look at this was obtained by Andy Slater, who Andy Slater's reports have lined up with everything I was told by my connection at the dock Marina. And I was told, when people are out here reporting, hey, he's out here saying I'm number 10, I can buy all these boats or whatever. I kept telling people, why do you think he's saying that? What provoked him to say that? Because I was told that there were racial undertones to what the exchange was between him and the employee. And I've tried to tell people and convey to people, why do you think a grown man of that stature who's been a law-abiding citizen since he's been a Miami Dolphin and a great leader in the locker room, why do you think he has the need to state verbally that he can buy everything? There was some level, a line was crossed. When I don't know about you gentlemen, but when I see a man being held back like that, automatically I think a line was crossed, gentlemen. I don't know.
I'm 100% certain dude said something real slick and out of pocket, and then you gotta be careful, man. Grown men gonna always be grown men regardless of where they work and what they do for a living. So I can't at any point. Y'all know how I get down. You get out of pocket with me. You know what I'm saying? You better hope somebody around, otherwise it's gonna be a bad day. I can't. You know what I'm saying? I'm certain for him to get out of character like that guy had to say something real slick. So you know what I mean?
Well, the other
my
thing
mama would always say, "Be careful what you ask for."
Yeah, go tell him.
Yeah, you better be real careful what you ask for, because he will show up. Because when it show up and show out, then you can't be hollering about. I didn't know. Yeah,
BallGame. What was I saying to all the fear mongers, all the clickbaiting fear mongers in the fan base? We all know who they are. What was I saying? You don't know how big this guy is. You don't know if he's a small guy, a little guy. They're all acting like Tyreek beat the crap out of some fragile senior citizen. Now we've seen the video.
The guy ain't no little
small fry. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we talking about here? And then on top of that, I've seen mosquitoes hit harder than that guy was hitting the back of the head. Let's be honest here, all right?
He looking. That's all he got.
So, I mean, people were over here fear-mongering, overreacting, and I was saying, let's wait till we get some... And even still, we don't have the audio. Even still, we don't have the full context of the situation and say he said, she said, because we don't have the audio, and which is what I said it would be anyways, even whichever way the tape pointed to. But I don't know, bro. That's too much for me. And on top of that, here you go, Richmond. You got some competition because after practice, Tyreek also said he plans to enter the Hall of Fame as a Miami Dolphins player.
Come on in there. We need some more Dolphin players in there. Come on in there.
Look at this, man. You know why he expects to do that? He expects to put a ring on the finger, bro. That's why he expects another one.
Well, for him to make that statement this early, and he spent the first years in Kansas City, so he really loves the atmosphere, this and that. And I'm not sure. I'm sure it wasn't bad in Kansas City. Yeah. But to do that, he really loves Miami, this and that. And so type of work ethic and stuff he does, he keep putting up the numbers, he'll definitely be there. So yeah, I'm glad he's making that decision to go in as a Dolphin. That'll be outstanding.
And gentlemen, in case you didn't see it, tatted Tua with the arm sleeve. And it would look so hard if it was on his throwing arm, but the reason it's on his right side is because that's where Warriors in the Samoan culture, from what I understand, that they put it on the right side. So tatted Tua, and tatted Tua out here doing that thing, gentlemen.
TT. Okay, I see you.
He ready, man. He ready.
Yeah, he ready. All right, so I want to get some final thoughts from you guys here before we get out of here. Day one's over. Let's get your recap, but also food for thought and your final thoughts. I want to get your guys' take. Give me your thoughts on day one recap. Give me your personal recap. But also I want to get you guys' take on Tua turning down being on that quarterback Netflix show because he wanted the privacy of his family. I know we all want to see him on it. We'd all love to see him, Herbert, and Burrows one season. But I get it. That privacy is the only real time you get outside of the limelight, especially with how under the limelight he is in Miami as a franchise quarterback here. That's his only time away from it. What are your thoughts on day one recap? And also, what are your thoughts on Tua turning down being on quarterback? Let's start with you, Richmond.
I thought day one was good. I thought the offense, they had some little hiccups here and there, but for the most part, I thought it was a really good practice. And like I said, typically the defense starts a little bit ahead of the offense. So I think that's good, things to build on, stuff like that. So I think it's all positive for me. So that was good to hear. As far as the reality show or whatever, it's I guess sometimes good to participate in that. But if you're a private person, I think people just look at you watch an hour, maybe a reality TV, but the amount of time that they got to film, edit, cut, they might follow you for 40 hours out of a week just to get an hour. And they're gonna edit, or they might not use certain stuff. So a private person, it's not like he's hurting for money or he needs the money. So, and he seemed like he's a private person. Even when he got married, he was a little pissed off that got leaked out. So it doesn't surprise me he decided to not do that show. So
I agree.
Just keep putting them dubs up. We good.
Guys, we got more than 410 people in the room. We peaked at over 450 people in the room tonight. Keep smashing that like button. BallGame, your thoughts on Tua not participating in the quarterback show, and also your thoughts on day one, because a lot of those defensive players came to play day one in Fangio's scheme, brother.
Yeah, I'm okay with Tua declining to be a part of that show. I think there's a lot of opportunities down the pipeline for him that are going to be able to get people that, if they've been under a rock and don't know who he is, they'll get introduced to him sooner than later. You know what I'm saying? In some form and fashion, without him having to have his privacy and all his time that would be for him to actually continue to get himself better and be in the right frame of mind, taken away from him when them guys follow him around. So I'm okay with that. And fact of the matter is, they don't par for course for me in terms of showing up, the defense guys showing up and getting after it. That's just who Fangio is. I don't think that any form of fashion they were going to show up and not get after it because that's just who they're going to go in the direction he points them as he's wound them up because they know without a shadow of a doubt he's provided them with everything they need to be successful. And he show up ready, ready. They're gonna do the same, man. I'm glad this is how this is starting out. A lot of challenges of each other. If you look at this roster, we keep saying it over and over again. They've got one of the best rosters in the league right now at the skill positions and up front in the trenches as well. And these guys, iron sharpens iron. So I'm glad they starting out early. They just got to sustain it, minimize the injuries, and I think we come out of training camp with minimal injuries, man. It's gonna be one hell of a season, and they're gonna be ready for it because they're mentally prepared as well as physically prepared for it. So,
I think what I was trying to stress earlier about Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey, you kind of just like gave me you kind of just placed the wording into my head there with what you said. Like, you got veterans who are established as some of the best at their position in the league right now. Jalen's going to probably go down as one of the best defensive backs ever, but they're playing like it looks like they're competitive and they're hungry like it's year one. Like, Jaylen out here acting like he won a ring in LA. Xavier out here acting like he hasn't been in the defensive player of the year conversation after having 10 interceptions in a season. It's like, I just see a hunger, man. And it's really awesome to see, especially in the year where that hunger could be, you see the players. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like you see the players not holding out for their money when they got the right to, because they got justifiable gripes, but they know how special this could be. They don't want to miss out on that. You know what I mean? And that just shows you that we've talked about this so many times on this show, right? How, we talked about when they were all talking about the Super Bowl word ball game, like, how many players on the roster were talking about that word. And it's like, these guys understand the goal. Like, it's just, I've never seen a confidence and an understanding from this talented of a roster in Dolphin colors in a long time. Let's just put it that way. And don't worry, Russell, I'll check my DMs after this show. I got you. And shout out to Michelle Migliardi for the $10 super chat donation. I appreciate you. So we have another day of training camp tomorrow. I will be live at 5 p.m. with Neil Driscoll. We will be live at 5 for all of y'all, so be on the lookout for that tomorrow on your way home, whether you're on your way home, just getting home, finishing off your day at work. Catch us as we do the same thing all over. We recap and we dive into day 2 of Dolphins training camp. We appreciate all of y'all for coming out. Strong showing. Almost had 500 in the room today. Let's keep getting those numbers up. Football's back, baby. And so are we, baby. Let's get it. Fins up all day, every day. We will see y'all next week on the next one, right back here at the finish line. Until then, stay happy, healthy, safe, and blessed.